I'd like to call this October 1st Board of Education meeting to order. And Ms. Shirley, can we have a roll call, please?
Troy Carr is absent with notice. Jamie Clapham,
Here.
Christine Stephenson,
Here.
Donna Moore is absent with notice. Michael Berkland, here. Walt Swan,
Here.
Katie Urban,
Here.
Amelia,
Here.
and Maricel.
Here. All right, thank you. So we did not have anyone for invocation, so I just sort of made my own for a brief kind of moment of reflection. The Oxford Dictionary defines grace as a noun meaning courteous and goodwill. And as we enter this meeting in this space, I gently remind us all to give grace to each other, to our staff, to our students, to our administration. When we're speaking, when we're writing, we don't know the other person's story. The person receiving your words may be experiencing one of the worst days of their life. We all make mistakes, and the majority of us are doing our best with the knowledge and resources we have. So as we begin this meeting, as we go through our week, doing the work of this community and this district, may we all remember to give grace. And I'd also just like us to take a 10-second pause. We have experienced loss in this district. We have experienced the loss of 3 students in the first 2 months of this year. And there's a lot of hurt. So I'd like us to just take 10 seconds and pause to remember those students. Thank everyone very much. And now we move on to the approval of the proposed agenda. Okay. Pledge of Allegiance, sorry. My apologies. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Getting ahead of myself? Now, I have a motion to approve the proposed agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve the proposed agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved. And now we will move on to the sharing of success with the Central High School Player Season Reveal, one of my favorite parts of the meeting.
On behalf of the Central High School Theater Department and our drama club officers, we would love to present to you guys our 21st season to you today. Under the direction of Mr. Speck and Joy Lohr. At this time, our officers would like to introduce ourselves and then present to you our season reveal video. We'll be happy to stay around and answer some questions, and we greatly appreciate your time. My name is Kaylee Tweeter, and I'm the drama club president, and I'm a senior.
Hello, I'm Grayson Bennett. I'm a junior at Central High School, and I'm the drama club vice president.
Hi, I'm Riley Hadorn. I am the drama club secretary and I'm a senior at Central.
Hi, my name is Caroline Haugo. I'm a junior at Central High School and I'm the drama club publicist and historian.
We would like now to show you guys our season reveal video that was shown a couple weeks ago at our first drama club meeting. So we'll stay after so we can answer some questions, but we'll get that video started for you guys. Right now. We again would like to thank you for your time. Right now, we'll be handing out our brochures for the season that we're having this year. While we do that, do you guys have any questions that we can ask?
My only question is, do board members get priority ticketing? Is that a thing?
I think we could put that in order.
Okay.
I do wonder if you could let everybody know, how to go about getting tickets if you're not connected to Central, you don't have any kids in the play.
I believe that we do post the link up on Facebook on the central account. But we do have posters that will come around closer to the show dates, which are shown in the brochures. And there's a link, it's showtickets.com. And then if you just scroll and find Central, it should have options for which nights you want to go and which seats you can pick.
Did you guys put that video together?
I believe one of Spec's friends did, I believe.
Awesome. And then, how do you guys pick the shows, or how are the shows picked? It was really good, Justin.
Mr. Speck and Mr. Lore pick out the shows. I believe pretty soon in advance, so we have time to make videos and brochures and stuff like that, so.
Well, thank you guys. I think we're all excited for the season, so thank you for coming.
Yeah, and then just to add on, we did just cast our first fall show, Hansel and Gretel, and there's over 75 cobblers involved in that. And then we're also doing some community outreach when, so we're gonna have some elementary schools come to Central. We're adding 4 performances so then they can come see the show too. So it's gonna be really exciting. So, yeah. So thank you all for your time. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is persons wishing to address the school board. We do have just 3 tonight, so everyone will have their full 5 minutes. Reminders, the issues affecting an individual or particular school should be addressed at the building level first. Please speak clearly and concisely and stay focused on the main points. We must refrain from making complaints about personnel, either naming the employee directly or identifying them indirectly. Complaints regarding district policy should be filed according with District Code KL, public complaints, and speakers must respectfully communicate, refraining from making threats, using vulgar language, intimidating or harassing the board or members of the district. Our first speaker is Mr. Andrew Ironshell. And of course, always check to make sure the mic's on before you speak.
Hosting. Good evening, community, relatives. So we're all aware of the OCR report and some of the recommendations or responsibilities actually that RCAS is supposed to navigate in that process. So within our community, I'm bringing forth some concerns of, we've been sharing information about the OCR report, what's involved, what benchmarks are in place. And so from the community, we have some concerns that I'd like to share with you this evening. One is clarification on the MOU and the discipline matrix. So one point is elimination of SROs. The OCR report recommends eliminating SROs, yet there is still no clear plan on how this will be implemented. And can the board provide details on how the discipline matrix will function to gradually or fully remove SROs from our schools? What is this timeline for the change? Second, they'd like some clarity on MOU with RCPD. The current MOU with RCPD seems vague regarding the roles of responsibilities and limits on SRO actions. Will the MOU be updated to reflect a commitment to reducing or eliminating the SRO presence in our schools? And how will the new MOU ensure that RCAS retains authority over student discipline without defaulting to law enforcement involvement? One of the other concerns they have is Who is accountable during an active threat? During active threats like school shootings, where does the responsibility and liability lie between the school board, the police department, and any other agencies involved? Currently, we notice that in the existing MOU, there is no obligation by the police department to save children. We feel that that should be specifically written out. And that's probably for insurance purposes, so that if something horribly goes wrong, who gets to blame? Does school board pay out or does the police department pay out? So we'd like some clarity on where liabilities lie. It should be in that contract because it is a law-abiding contract. Also, ensuring school safety without SROs. How will the district ensure school safety through alternative methods such as increased mental health resources, conflict resolution programs, and trauma-informed support staff? In closing, we are requesting transparency on the MOU with the RCPD and how the district plans to eliminate the presence of SROs while ensuring student safety. Thank you.
Our next speaker is, hopefully I get this right, is it Mickey Callison? I apologize if I mispronounce your first name.
Good evening. I've never even been to a school boarding meeting before, so bear with me. And in front of you tonight, you have a policy that the RCS is currently using to stop all tutors, therapists, and parents from entering the classroom at a parent's request. It does look like in the policy that it is for after school and is kind of dictated by the board for use. States even nights, weekends, after school. And where I have it highlighted and underlined, it says that this policy of the school district is to provide for the community use of facilities when not being used by district activities. So the reason I'm talking to you about this tonight is because my son is disabled. He is autistic. He has developmental delays. He has language expressive disorder. He has seizures. He's immunocompromised, among many others. He's in a self-contained classroom. He struggles with school. He fights us on going to school, including threatening to kill himself. You already have a body count. Let's get kids help. He does harm himself. Even yesterday, walking into school, punching himself in the head over going. He has extreme anxiety on the drive there, turning red, struggling to breathe. He is on medication for anxiety, but it's still going to school is a struggle. Teachers do not deny him sleeping in class, shutting down, and work refusal. No one disputes his behavior is impairing his learning. He has never even come close to meeting his IEP goals. He's 8.5 and he can't count to 20. He functions with everything else pretty good. It's a behavioral related to school. And my son currently attends ABA 3 times a week. That's applied behavioral analysis at LifeScape. He's made remarkable strides since he started this past spring. I've requested for LifeScape to come in, observe my son, see how his behavior is affecting his learning. And we did that this past spring. We had a great spring, see the best out of 6 years in the school district after working with ABA and the teacher. Unfortunately, this year, the policy in front of you is being used to deny that. They said unequivocally, if you would ask for a tutor to come in over lunch and tutor your child, it's going to be denied. They're denying all access to LifeScape to all students, all tutors. And I think it's a gross misuse of the policy. I do not see anywhere, it's a policy for use of the school after district time. And I'd just like for the federal laws to be followed with working with partnership with parents, others to work with problems in a child's living situation, which includes homeschool and community that affects their adjustment in school, mobilizing school and community resources to enable a child to learn more effectively, as possible in their education program and to assist in developing a positive behavior intervention strategy. And I believe there's plenty of Supreme cases that support this. The ESAA, the IDEA, all of them. And so I'm asking that the board rule to allow Lifescape and therapists to come into the school. Since it appears on this policy that it's kind of, since it's what they're using to keep us out, it looks like you guys can allow them in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Callison. You're good. Thank you. Our third and final speaker is Mr. Herm Bedeljung.
I'd like to address a couple different things. First of all, my kids, and I want this documented with the school board, I talked to them at the school level. My boys are not allowed to speak to the school resource officers. You have to have permission for a police officer to speak to your underage child. So at any point during the school, they are not allowed. I did not sign a consent for a police officer to be a mentor. The second thing is police officers are not disciplinary tools. They use police officers, the SROs in the schools as disciplinary to take disciplinary action. That's not what they're there for. They're glorified security guards. And I want that to be known. Next time a school resource officer takes disciplinary action against my kid, we're gonna have some legal battles going on because I did not sign a consent and they are not there for a disciplinary tool. You all know that. They're there for apparently school safety. As brown kids in this school, in this city, it's really dangerous to be around a police officer. And the stats show it. I'm not no token Indian. I tell people how it is. I'm out on the street and I know how it is. And to watch the difference between a police officer hauling off somebody's car that doesn't have insurance versus, okay, have your mom and dad come pick it up. From a police officer shooting somebody in the back to 3 officers responding, say, please put the gun down. That's the whole difference. That is why my kids are not allowed to be confronted with police officers. The next one is the treaty boundaries of this territory are still intact to this day. Those treaty boundaries go from the east end to the west end of the river, from the north end to the south end of the rivers. Those are not taught in this school. You guys take pride and pledge allegiance to that flag. That flag represents constitutional rights. That represents freedom. If you're teaching that in a school system and you're denying kids that constitutional right to learn the Lakota culture and history, it's not fair to our people. No matter how hard people try to smudge us out, we're not going anywhere. And I will continue to teach my kids to stand up to and challenge the system. These things need to change. And people say, oh, you're just raising hell. You're causing trouble. I am not. I love my people and I love my ancestors, and they need to be remembered. And in order to continue it, we need to continue to teach it in the education system. So whenever your teachers and your administrative staff pledge allegiance to that flag in the morning, remind them that our students have constitutional rights. The treaty is the supreme law of the land. They need to have respect for that rather than disciplining kids that do not want to watch the colonialism and the pain that our people has been through on a movie for class. If they choose not to watch it, let them sit off in the corner and do some other work. They're not obligated to watch that movie. And I'll end there.
Thank you, Mr. Benelli. Do any board members have comments or response? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay.
Thank you for your comments, everybody. We don't know what's happening in the district unless you come to us. That said, I did want to say specifically for your son, that I very much encourage you to kind of go up the ranks, coming directly to us. It's not possible to go in and tell people at every level how to do their job, but if there is a request, it seems reasonable and it's being denied, I hope you go up and then eventually maybe we can hear about it, but hopefully it can be resolved, because
We've removed him from the school district starting yesterday until it's resolved. We've dealt with it for 6 years. We are going legal now.
okay. Well, I am sorry that you're having this experience, and glad that you're having a good experience with ABA.
Anybody else? No. Okay. We will now move on to our student representative report. So we want to welcome our student representatives. This is their first meeting. Our representative from Stevens is away at tennis today, but we'd like to welcome Amelia Schaefbauer from Central High School and Marisol from Rapid City Alternative Academy. Amelia, the floor is yours for your report.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. First time ever speaking at a school board meeting, so very, very fun. When it comes to Central, there's so many amazing things to talk about. Really, I could go on for like 5 hours, but I'll keep it down for today. Starting off, we're currently in homecoming week. This is a very exciting time for many students. We have dress up days every single day. Our theme this year is rock and roll cobblers, so we're basing every day on a popular like rock song or movie. These include Rock Around the Clock or Decades Day, which was yesterday. Born in the USA is today, or just dress up like America. I'm kind of wearing my Born in the USA outfit today. I don't know how much you can see that, but red, white, and blue. Tomorrow is Surfers versus Bikers from the Teen Beach movie. Thursday is Freaky Thursday, Teacher and Student Swap, and Friday is Smells Like Teen Spirit or School and Class Spirit Day. School spirit hasn't been as peppy in the last few years as I feel like it should be. So Central's taking a lot of extra steps to make it something worth celebrating this year. One way this is being done is having classes participate in things such as decorating hallways in a certain theme and competing against other classes for the Spirit Stick, which is a fun way to boost competition and sprout a friendly rivalry between classes. The freshmen, unfortunately, were the first winners of the Spirit Stick and will be rewarded with a barbecue in the near future. We don't know the winner of this week until Friday. It seems like the freshmen are winning again. But as a senior myself, I got to root for the seniors to win. So hopefully we pull through. When it comes to sports and extracurricular activities, Central is doing a whole bunch. Our sports teams are having tournaments almost every weekend, and the cheer team has taken first place in their last 2 tournaments. So that's really awesome. Our academic teams are also just starting up, with Knowledgeable having its first tournament last weekend and Debate starting to gather a really big team. I think it's up to around 20 to 30 people, which is compared to about 9 2 years ago. So it's definitely having a big boost. Our band program also held an instrument day last Saturday for students from all across the district. I think it's 6th through 12th. So that was really fun. And they were able to learn more about their instruments. Auditions for the fall play, as you guys heard, Hansel and Gretel took place last week and cast lists have been posted. I think it's going to be a really good one, you guys. I'll be buying tickets. In other academic news, Mrs. Slocum, a graduation success coach from the Office of Indian Education, just got awarded $2,500 from Black Hills Federal Credit Union to help support after-school tutoring, which runs Monday through Thursday until 5 p.m. This will be a really good addition to help our Central students. Central also recognizes a positive cobbler student and staff each week. For this, I'd like to congratulate Trevor Bennett, Miss Emily Nickel, Ash Grazer, and Mr. Sam Steinken. They've been the most positive so far, but with how exciting homecoming and our other activities are, I'm sure there'll be a lot more positive and upbeat people to earn this award throughout the year. And overall, Central is having a really great start to the year, and I can't see what's to come. And as our motto goes, once a cobbler, always a cobbler. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amelia. Do any board members have any questions for Amelia? No. All right, Marisol.
Hello, I'm Marisol. I go to Rapid City Alternative Academy. And to start off, as we kick off this school year, we introduce new programming at Rapid City Alternative Academy aimed at growing a positive school culture and climate. This program is called Discovery, which takes a wide building approach to strengthening our community. And currently 66 of our learners are enrolled in Discovery course. This 9-week course is required for all learners who are new to RCAA before they transition into their core academic class. The other 34% of learners were exempt from Discovery as they are on track to graduate extra early or early this year. This course has been a big success, leading to positive outcomes. We have noticed a greater learner engagement and a stronger sense of community. For example, I have personally connected with peers I have been attending school with for 2 years but had not interacted with until this year. Thanks to Discovery, we are now learning and growing together. The start of the school year also welcomed several new staff to RCAA. On behalf of the study body, I would like to formally welcome Principal Kanta and Assistant Principal Shear. We would also like to welcome to our building this year a new night custodian, 10 teachers, 2 paraprofessionals, and 2 new counselors. We have also welcomed new staff into the Title 1D programs that share space at RCAA, including an entirely new program called Fresh Start. On behalf of the student body, I welcome all new and past staff and offer a thank you for all those who support our school community. At RCAA, we have the joy of celebrating learners throughout the school year as they meet the Rapid City Area Schools graduation requirements. The Q2 learners have already completed their coursework and 8 more on track to meet their graduation requirements by October 16th. Congratulations to these learners, and we look forward to seeing you at the graduation ceremony in the spring. At the end of each quarter, Rapid City Alternative Academy holds an all-school assembly. On October 16th, we will have an assembly scheduled to follow for all learners and staff together in the historic theater. During the assembly, we will celebrate learners that have exhibited the school-wide expectations of being respectful, present, and being courageous. Also, we will celebrate those graduating out of the Discovery course into core academics. On a quick personal note, I want to thank Principal Kanta for appointing me to be our school representative both here and for the Title VI PAC. Thank you to Acting Superintendent Strasser and Board Chair Bishop Carr for welcoming us as student representatives. To the entire board and community, I look forward to spending the year celebrating and growing with you all. In closing, I'll remind you of our school-wide expectations at Rapid City Alternative Academy. Be respectful, be present, and be courageous.
Thank you much, Marisol. I think Ms. Urban has a question for you.
Just a comment. Thank you both, Amelia and Marisol. It's great to have you on. And I would just encourage you as we meet throughout the year that if there are issues or topics that we're discussing that you feel passionately about, that you turn on your light or raise your hand so we can hear from you, because that's really the purpose. And I love hearing about all the things that are happening at your schools, but your voice matters. It's why you're here. So don't be afraid to weigh in.
Thank you very much. Wonderful first reports, and we're happy to have you. We will now move on to our acting superintendent report. I will give the floor to Dr. Strasser.
Good evening, board. Thank you, student reps. Awesome that you get to join us now, and looking forward to hearing from you throughout the year. The first thing I want to bring up tonight is we are moving towards esports competition this year, and got Mr. Carr and Mr. Bauer here, and they're going to share a little bit of information, and you also have some information in front of you regarding our esports and how we're bringing that to each of our schools.
Good evening, everyone. I think I know everybody, but if you don't, I'm Jordan Bauer. I'm the activities director at Rapid City Central. So thanks for allowing us to be here to give you some information about esports as we move forward to hopefully sanctioning this for our students at Central and Stevens. So a few years ago, I was asked to be part of the esports steering committee, just to kind of look at what it would look like to bring this on as an activity within our communities. And through that, I learned a lot. I'm not a gamer myself. I think Mr. Daniel, I don't know if he's on or not, but he's taught me a lot since we've started down this path. So as you can see in front of you, I'm not going to read what we handed out tonight, but you know, esports does offer a lot of great opportunities for our kids. It is going to be recognized as a fine art activity by the South Dakota High School Activities Association. They're currently working on a handbook right now to, just like they would for basketball or band or football, that has not been 100% adopted yet. At their next board meeting in November, they plan to adopt that fully. So as you can see, the season runs in the winter months, similar to like our wrestling and basketball program starts in November, runs through February with the state championship. In this year will be in Brookings. The neat thing about esports is you don't have to travel anywhere to participate in this. So we can compete against Sioux Falls or Watertown or Brookings from our school without our kids having to get on a bus and miss school time. You can see down there just a few things as to why esports is popular amongst teens now and why it's beneficial for our student athletes and students. Increased GPA, higher attendance, scholarships. Last year we ran a pilot program at Central and we had 4 kids compete in two at state, right? 2 went to state last year, and one of those students did quite well and has actually been offered a scholarship. He's a senior this year, so it is paying off already for our kids. He's been offered a scholarship at a school in Iowa. So there are those things out there for our students as well. And then all the other, the life skills, community, the camaraderie, the team aspects that come with sports and such as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Karn. He'll kind of talk through some of the game titles.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Good evening, board. It's good to see you all. So I get the fun part. I get to tell you what games we're playing and tell you that this is obviously going through our entertainment software ratings board. And so if you're a gamer, you probably see it on all the consoles and the games. It'll show you that rating. So all the games approved have to be a T for teen or E for everyone. So those games are as follows: chess, Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers, League of Legends, Valorant, Fortnite, and Rocket League. Now, each game has a different setup. We also have different consoles we can use. So for example, Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers would have to be the Nintendo Switch. And Mr. Bauer will talk about the budget regarding those. But most of them can be done on a laptop. And we've talked with Mr. Daniel, both us, to see that what our setup looks like and what areas that we need. And we're pretty well set up to get this going. And so we've been I'll tell IT, they've been very helpful with that process. So just want to thank them for that. And the game days and times are listed. As you can see there, obviously we'll only compete in the ones that we are offering. And then Mr. Bauer already talked about some important dates, but the registration period is from October 14th to November 6th. So we need to create those teams by November 6th. And so we do have both coaches, potential coaches here tonight to support this program as well behind us. And we thank them both for being here to show their support. Is there anything I missed? Okay.
That last page, we did put together a budget in speaking with Mr. Sassy and Dr. Schrosser. You can see there, obviously, in year 1, there's a few more expenses with uniforms and purchasing some of the consoles, the Nintendo Switches, some gaming chairs, some mice, some headsets, some of those items, obviously in year 1 that we'll need, that we won't need in year 2 as we move forward. But so you can kind of see there, budget wise, that is per high school, not for both. So it would be right around 35,000 per school is kind of where we landed with the budget. So I will note, we don't have to play all the games. You know, if we don't have students that are interested in chess per se, we don't have to offer chess. We can only, you know, we can choose to offer certain games as opposed to all of them. So.
And something I forgot to add, just for the rating purposes, E for everyone is ages 6 and up, and teen is 13 and up. So that's how that rating system works. And I'm sure Mr. Bauer can agree with me on this. We've had a ton of students and teachers very excited about this, of when it's going to start. And coming from Colorado, it was very big. And there are many scholarship options. I know the School of Mines has a whole setup over there. And so if you ever want to see it, I'm sure if you reach out to School of Mines, you can go get a tour. It's pretty cool, their setup. So it's very engaging, and students really love it. And we engage a lot of students with this. Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you, gentlemen. We do have a few questions. Ms. Stephenson.
Thanks. This is a lot of good information. This is not something that the board approves or doesn't approve of. This is done. This is happening. I mean, we don't have it's not gonna be on our agenda.
No.
Okay.
It is happening though.
Yeah, it's happening. Okay. I just wanted to be sure. I would love to know just ballpark how the cost comparison is to other fine arts activities, this budget. Startup costs notwithstanding, but just the anticipated annual budget, if it's in line, a little higher, a little lower.
I would say typically probably a little bit lower. Right now, we've only budgeted for one coach. We're not sure what kind of interest we will have. You just never know with the new program. So depending on the number of students, that could increase a little bit. General manager is what they call the head coach of the team. So I would say it's pretty similar to probably a little bit less than what our other fine arts are.
Okay, and then I was gonna, you don't have a guess of how many participants?
Right now, Mr. NK is who has been kind of spearheading over at Central. He said that we're right around 20-ish is where we're at right now. I think once we officially put it out there though, which we have not done, we were kind of waiting to chat with you folks tonight. But we're going to start pushing that forward this week. I think, I don't know what to expect. I hope we get a lot. I hope we don't get more than we can handle in year one. But yeah, we're looking right around 20 at our place.
Same for us. So yeah, about 20 or more. Yeah.
Okay, I am gonna ask a little bit of a question that kind of is gonna show you my bias as a pediatric physical therapist. I see a lot of kids who are too into their video games. This is all well and good. Can you tell me how this is? Because I know it is. How is it social for kids? Like, how does it sell me on this? That it's not just a bunch of kids in a room playing a video game.
That's a great point. And I'll be honest with you, our kids are doing it anyway, so we'd rather have them together in a room. So it's a great point. We want to limit screen time. I know with computers, cell phones, we want to limit those distractions. But there are headsets and they're interacting with kids from, like Mr. Bauer said, from Watertown, Brookings, Sioux Falls over the headset, and it creates those positive relationships, and there's rules around it too. If they're at home, I hope you don't listen to some of the language that is used, but we do have rules. And so it's an extension of the classroom. And so they're doing it in a positive and constructive way. And they're also collaborating amongst their teammates, just like a normal team would. And so, yes, it is through a screen, but it is a good outlet for them to learn that proper use of technology with a trusted adult there to guide them.
Right, Mrs. Urban.
Okay, so as a wife and mother of some pretty big gamers, I'm really excited about this because I think, like you said, they're doing it anyway. And so getting them kind of in a room where there is that camaraderie is huge. And just the engagement, I think those stats kind of speak for themselves. With sports and fine arts, a lot of times there's a tryout process. Is there anything like that?
So we've been, that was something that Mr. NK and I met about here just a couple days ago of using our current tryout policies that we have with our other sports, just to try to kind of give a general idea of what we'll be looking for when we're trying out for those games. But to answer your question, yes. I would not want to cut kids from this. That would not be our intent, at least not my intent right away. Unless we get to a point where we have 250 kids trying to do this, we might get to a point where we have to maybe cut, but in terms of choosing, whether I'm the chess player or Mr. Carn's the chess player, we are working on that process right now. Yes.
All right, Mr. Swan.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I was going to ask about the cost, but I assume you have this under control with COI, so I'm good with that. The other one is grades eligibility. Are we doing that as well? We keeping track of grades, making sure we're eligible for this?
Absolutely. Yeah, they'll follow the same guidelines that the Activity Association sets forward and what our policies are of have to pass two credits the previous semester, have to be enrolled in 2 credits in the current semester in which you're in. All those same guidelines to play basketball or football or be in band would be the same academic guidelines that these students would have to follow.
Other one is bandwidth. Are we okay with that? I mean, is this going to tax our system? Are we going to be experiencing crashes? Is there going to be a lot of technology involved with this? I understand. So I just want to know, is this going to tax our system? Is this going to, what's the plan there? Is there a plan or?
Yeah, so Mr. Daniel, and I don't know if he's on or not, it is different than the Intellivision that I grew up playing on. You're right. But I think with his expertise, I think his hand is raised, but he has walked through this with us. We do have a computer lab at Central with 20-ish machines that we'll be able to use. And I think that, but I'll let Shane talk more to the bandwidth question.
Would it be beneficial to let Mr. Daniel answer?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Jamie. So yeah, the bandwidth, it won't be an issue. We have, during the school day, we have, 19,000 devices connected and running. And this program is going to be mainly after school. So it's going to be a fraction of what our capacity is. And as far as the computers, the desktops, when we purchased those desktops, we intentionally bought a much higher end computer than what we would have needed at that time, just to kind of for future growth. So I feel pretty good for that stuff. Probably the bigger expenses will be like if we want to get newer monitors, chairs, that kind of stuff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel.
I got one more. I got 2 more things. I know that sometimes gamers use a lot of caffeine, I've visited these gaming lounges before in Las Vegas and in Los Angeles. I know that, they would offer like caffeinated even popcorn, is that what, are we reviewing a diet or anything like that? I mean, it's something that gamers use to concentrate and work on focus and things like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. So just like with all of our athletes, we teach them nutrition, and with these new devices, we don't want any sugary products or anything near them, including water. So we would make sure that there is no liquid near them or even food. We want to take care of our products just like we would during the school day. So we obviously at all schools, we don't sell those energy drinks, anything like that. So if they want vitamin water or just regular water, they can purchase it in our vending machines, but it's not something we're going to provide, and they need to be away from the devices.
Thank you. And just for the record, I am really good at Smash Brothers. So if anybody needs to tune up their game,
Who's your
I'm
favorite
available.
character?
I'm available.
We just want to know who your favorite character is. Yoshi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like,
All right, Mr. Brooklyn.
Thank you. I'm also a Smash player. I've actually played in some Mines tournaments, so I'd have to take you on Princess Peach here. And more of an Isabel these days, but anyway, I could get way into the weeds in this. But to quell some of your concerns, what I always tell my sister-in-law is I played video games for like 8 hours a day when I was their age and I turned out fine. So you can do it and be okay. Oh, fine, depending on who you ask, I guess. My only question for right now though, is I'm assuming this is only at the high school level. So will it be like tennis styles, can 7th and 8th graders play up?
So that discussion has taken place. For year one, we're looking at high school only, but we have talked about what it could look like in the future. And we've kind of put some preliminary budget together for potentially it going down to the middle schools. Obviously that comes with, again, more machines, more people to supervise, all the things that come with it. But we wanted to start kind of small to make sure we do it right before we grow it. But I do see that eventually happening, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Schaefer.
Okay, first of all, I'd just like to say, since I'm from Central, I've heard a lot about Game Club. I have never heard anything negative. It seems like people are really, really interested in it. But I also have a question. So you mentioned that it's going to be placed in the fine arts category, but you talk a lot about it being a sport and treating them as athletes. So is there any hope to get it out of that fine arts category into sports or make it its own category or?
Sure. So that's an activities association decision. I look at it, I think it's probably how you look at it. And for me, in my brain, it's esports, not fine arts. So that's kind of why I preface it and talk about it that way. But just like any of our activity kids, to me, they're all activity kids. So I don't know if it will in the future, but that's an activities association decision. So thanks for the question. Great question.
Can I add to that? I was wondering the same thing. I'm wondering, and maybe you can speak to this. I'm wondering if there's some like gender rules and stuff like that fine arts are a little more mixed than sports are generally. I don't know if that's it, but I totally agree with you that why is it not sports? But that's the only thing that comes to my mind.
I can find out the answer to why they placed it in the fine arts category. I don't know that answer, but I can ask and let you guys know. I can shoot you an email.
Awesome, thank you. I just had a couple, so I'm kind of assuming because it's activity, so can you earn a letter in
Yes.
esports? Yes, okay. And I know I can picture just people listening, because I had the same question last year. Is it also accurate? I've often heard that like Homeland Security and other things, because a lot of gamers are really good like drone at mastering drones and actually being used in the military. Is that an accurate statement?
So I was fortunate to go to one of our national conventions a few years back, and I went to a session on esports. And the CEO from Toyota was there talking about the importance of because they're making cars with robots and joysticks now, and just the dexterity and having people that can sit there for 8 hours and do this, like Mr. Birkeland did as a youngin. But yeah, so the answer is yes, that these kids are finding a lot of post education field work in that, military, drones, building cars, all the things. So
Then my other question, I mentioned School of Mines. Is there any potential discussion about collaboration with School of Mines as far as, them coming, teaching them or going to their facility or anything like that? Just because it seems like a great resource in our backyard.
Yeah, they're very excited about this. I have had a few conversations with their assistant AD about partnering on, maybe a workshop or something for our general managers just to get going. But they're more than willing and wanting to help make this a great thing for our kids.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. I guess comments. One, I've said many times from this table, I think the more avenues we find for kids to find community and find a place, I think is huge. We have a large, diverse district, and every opportunity we can give for students that is something that they're passionate about, I think is wonderful. I can say on a very anecdotal, personal level when we talk about like gaming. So my son is a gamer, and it actually is made at 11. He actually runs the the video live stream for our church, and he's one of the only people under like 25 who can do it because he knows how to do all the cameras. And so it's actually given him a community service to do that's actually grown from his gaming skills, which I would never have foreseen from that skill set. So it is a lot more ubiquitous, I think, than people realize. So I appreciate this opportunity. I think Ms. Stephenson has one more question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, two more came up. Does School of Mines have a esports team?
Yes, ma'am.
Do all the universities in the Regental system or?
No, I think in South Dakota, it's South Dakota Mines and Dakota State, I believe, are the only two in with the BOR.
And then are Rhapsody Alternative Academy kids eligible to do,
Sorry, what?
are RCAA students eligible to participate?
Yeah, it would just be like any other activity, yeah. So if they're, whichever attendance area they reside in, that would be who they would compete with. So if there's in the central attendance area, they'd come to us. If they're in the Stevens attendance area, they could participate over at Stevens.
All right, thanks.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know they have to get going because there's apparently a big soccer game going on right now. But I do thank them for their time and effort putting this together and getting it going at each school, and really excited to see where it's going because we all know that it's a booming industry and valuable for our kids. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
A few other things that I wanted to bring up tonight. First of all, I was able to meet with the Student Voice Forum, of which Amelia is a part of, and something that I'll be sharing with you here in the next couple of weeks is a proposal that they are advocating for, and that's to create a student school board. So we've kind of talked through and discussed some of the things regarding what a student school board could look like and how it could function. So they brought a very well thought out proposal, and we're gonna keep looking at that and bring some more information and formality to you as a board here probably at our next board meeting. So looking forward to how our Student Voice Forum students really advocate for themselves and for their voice at each building, but also replicates what takes place here. And I think that the whole goal is to really share their voice and do so in proper means, in a way that can create more activism for them in doing so. Wanted to give you an update on our enrollment, and September 27th was the cutoff date. I'll just let you know that we were at 12,338 on that day. And, it's tough to say, to really get that actual number because there are other factors that go in to how the state polls and what they look at. But that is the number that my office looked at on last Friday. For our staff, and when I think of our principals, we are working on, I've got probably 7 that are looking at teacher evaluation and supervision. That is something that we feel is an essential role for our principals. And we haven't done a very good study in a while, and we wanted to do that. So just so you're aware, they're doing an 8-session training this year. And the goal is to obviously learn more about teacher supervision and evaluation. I think there's a lot of good research and thinking that has happened in the last 10 years that we want to be exposed to and determine how that can help us be better at teacher evaluation and supervision. Last thing I wanted to bring up is around volunteers. There's questions just about that whole process. I want you to know that Ms. Hagan has a very solid process in place. She has point of contacts at every building that she communicates with, and including the principal, because the principal isn't always the point of contact at each building, but she communicates regularly. The point of contacts, they get weekly emails regarding their volunteers that are available. So that's in place. And as she works to kind of clean up the database, which is an annual thing, we have 760 active volunteers and 35 applicants that are working their way through. So pretty good numbers, and just very thankful that we have a community that really wants to be involved and be part of the volunteer process. And the last thing I'll bring up is we did the board legislative luncheon last week, and we had roughly 10 legislators. I'm going to let Mr. Sassy share what he wants regarding that, but I would just say I thought we had great dialogue and had really good questions with our legislators, and really looking at how we can promote and support public education, and specifically the needs of Rapid City area schools. So I thought that was a very positive luncheon. So that's my report. If you have questions, I'll answer what I can.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for your report, Dr. Strasser. What was the enrollment number? 12,338?
12,338, yes.
Okay. How many native students this year?
I haven't drilled down on that.
You haven't?
I just went total number, because that's the end of September is the count, total enrollment count. So that's all I've looked at so far.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
As of our last PAC meeting, a couple of weeks ago, we have 3,933 self-identified Indigenous students in the district. So almost a third of our population are self-identified as Indigenous, and a little over 2,100 506 forms.
So I wanted to repeat, because people can't hear on the recording on the mic, so that our current self-identified number of Indigenous students is 3,933 as of 2 weeks ago. So that could be even more, and approximately 2,100 506 forms. So so that it makes it onto the YouTube recording and people can hear that. All right, look, Mr. Sassy is raring to go with his report, so
Trying to be efficient.
please take the floor, Mr.
Thank you,
Sassy.
Vice President Clapham. Appreciate it, ma'am. Board, tonight I want to run through brief updates on a few areas. First of all, a very brief review of fiscal year 24 annual report. Want to just briefly touch on the legislative luncheon, and then a quick update around some of the facility pillar work we're doing, and some information on community growth. So starting with the fiscal year 2024 annual report, first of all, what that is a State Department of Education required report. And basically it aggregates all the year's financial data into one comprehensive report. I am going to email the board a copy of that financial report after this evening. However, if you don't have accounting experience, it's not going to mean a hill of beans to you, because it's reading financial statements. So here are the very, very brief highlights. First of all, the district increased its total asset position in all of its major funds, which there's some nuance to that without diving into a rabbit hole, sometimes can have indicators pointing in different directions. However, I would say generally speaking, it is a good thing. And I think in our situation right now, it is a good thing that we've increased our asset position in those major funds. We also decreased liabilities in all of our major funds. So again, this is a bit nuanced, but generally speaking, when you have an increase in asset in a decrease in liability, that is a good thing. We underspent expenditures in all funds, so we finished the year in a really good budgeting position. So overall, we are in a very healthy position from a financial standpoint, according to that annual report. There are a few other areas that the state requires data collection on, and one of them is teacher compensation data. So as the teacher compensation bill was passed in 2017, the state started to aggregate teacher compensation data, and districts are required to submit that data on a yearly basis. So I have a couple snapshots of that data for you this evening. This is just a recap of the teacher compensation data for fiscal year 2024. You can see our record count was 799. So 799 certified staff went into that report. I think it's always important to note that that is not all of the district's certified staff. That is only instructional, classroom-facing certified staff. So total number of certified staff is probably in that 1,100-ish range. But these are the folks that count towards that teacher accountability portion. Average salary was $55,332. Total average compensation was $72,477, meaning average benefit amount was just over $17,000. Total FTE, this is after removing the less than full-time equivalents, the total amount of FTE that the district loaded into that report, 783. Total salary paid out of 43.3 million. Total benefits of 13.4 for total compensation paid to those specific certified staff of 56.8 million. This shows the teacher compensation for the current year compared to the prior year. So from year 23 to year 24, total FTE was 803.76 and total compensation was 55.2 million. FTE in fiscal year 24 went down to that 783 figure. Total compensation increased to 56.8 million. So average compensation went from 68,677 to 72,477, which is about a 5.5% year-over-year compensation increase. It gets a little confusing because we're talking about multiple different periods of time to think about negotiation conversations that we were having at that time moving into that year. But if you recall, if you were with the district and if you happen to be involved in that conversation, we were estimating that at that point, the amount of resources that we brought in to those negotiation conversations were going to increase average compensation about 5%. So we actually went over that mark at about 5.5%. So we'll see where we go next year. I think the board was more aggressive last year moving into this year. And so hopefully we can see all those resources trickling into increasing that average compensation. But overall, nice increase from a year-over-year perspective. A couple of the really boring pieces of information that go into this schedule of long-term debt. So you can see total outstanding debt here in the right-hand corner at the end of that fiscal year was 47.6 million. Between principal and interest paid in the current year up into about that $7 million range. Again, as we talked about, that year and the current fiscal year are really our high points in terms of total debt service. So as we start to move into the end of the decade, we start to see that amount recede and level off towards the end of the decade. And then lastly, cash balance information. Again, this is very boring. I find it fascinating. You can see the major funds here: general fund, capital outlay, special education. We see these trends very similar in special ed and general fund because of the makeup of the revenue. Because state aid is really our only ongoing monthly revenue source, what we see is these declines in cash, and then in the big property tax deposit months of November and May, that cash level comes back and then dwindles back and then dwindles. Capital outlay, because it is not an operations fund and it's a project-based fund, the cash levels on that can be really weird. I'm not sure what happened here, to be honest. This does not reflect in any of our data that we went down to almost a zero balance in capital outlay. That must be some weird reporting error on their side. But just rest assured, we didn't almost bankrupt capital outlay. Any questions on that, board, before I move on?
I do have one question. Do
Yes,
we
ma'am.
know what really led to because it's about a decrease of about 20 FTEs? And do we know if that was just consolidation, retirements? Are we not sure?
I think from my perspective, it would be a combination of all those things. I think, obviously unfilled positions, attrition. I think Dr. Strasser has done a really excellent job of finding areas as enrollment has declined and then sort of leveled off that there were necessary collapsing of positions and combining of areas. And so I think it's probably a combination of all those things. Anything you would add to that, Corey?
No, that's accurate. I think we've taken just a hard look at where we can be, where we can reduce and when it's appropriate, and yet provide the educational service that we need to. And we talked through a lot of those situations, and I think that's a big part of it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else with questions?
I know that's riveting info, so.
Mr. Berkland has a question?
Yep,
Related
please.
question. So that number, is that filled positions? The 784? So anything unfilled would not count for that?
Yes, correct, Michael. Yep. So this is just purely FTEs in the system, doesn't count any unfilled. It's only compensation paid out to those folks that count towards the accountability model. Mhm. Okay. Dr. Strasser did a nice job. We're just going to briefly touch on the legislative luncheon. We held our first legislative meeting of the year last week. I think we did have 10 folks present, I believe. That's the number I had too anyway. Really kind of a weird time because typically when we start to have those functions, we are very close to or in the legislative season. And so we really have an idea of bills that are coming forward, hot button issues, and being this far ahead, although it's a great thing to start those conversations and have good dialogue, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like at this point. So we really focused on three primary areas, mainly the state aid formula. And again, trying to really drive home some of the complex issues around that formula, some of the clarity that we feel needs to happen in terms of how it works, and really hammering away on some of the common narratives that are false and inaccurate that end up happening as those conversations happen. We talked a little bit about IM 28, Initiative Measure 28. It's going to the ballot in November, of course, which eliminates sales tax on anything sold for human consumption, which is really the I think controversial area is what is the definition of human consumption? The South Dakota Legislative Research Council put out some really great information. Depending on that definition, the potential impact to state revenue could be anywhere from, I believe, 6 million all the way up to 600 and some million. So that is obviously a very important piece of that voters aren't going to know as they move into voting on this issue in November. Because that definition, as I understand it, would happen after the vote happens. So it's quite a gamble in terms of what those few words mean. As we explained to that group, where it really becomes an issue and how we as a school district get tied into that issue is that sales tax makes up about 35% of the state's general fund revenue. So it is a huge piece of their revenue picture. No, excuse me, 62%. I'm sorry, not 35%, 62% of the state's overall general fund revenue. When you flip over to the expense side, education and the accompanying programs make up about 35% of the total general fund expense breakdown. So if there was a major reduction to the state's general fund revenue, it would be difficult to envision a scenario in which there wouldn't have to be a major expense reduction. And given that education takes such a huge amount of that pie, it really becomes a concern of how are you going to replace that revenue if you have a plan to replace that revenue. And if you're not, what does that look like from a funding perspective, and how does it impact the state aid that is also paid out of the state's general fund. So really a big deal for us as a district, and wanted to make sure they had that on their radar. And then lastly, just briefly talked school choice and voucher issues and some of the issues that presents for our particular school district. As Dr. Strasser said, I felt great about the conversation. I thought there was really good interaction, good dialogue, both on the pro and con side, and ultimately having people that are willing to sit down and listen to what we have to say is a really big deal. So thank those folks for their time and commend them for being willing to listen. Questions before I move on? Okay.
There are no hands raised, so.
Okay. Lastly, just wanted to talk through some facilities updates. First of all, we look forward to partnering with Co-op Architecture on a master plan. Of course, that is on the agenda for this evening, assuming that it is approved by the board. We've done some really excellent work. Jade Clement, who's in the audience, has done some really excellent work in terms of digging in and understanding our facilities and having a lot of information, and combining that with the master planning process, we feel is going to really help to guide these conversations as we move into the future. It really is a dichotomy of an issue that we are trying to address when you think about the facility issue that we have on our hands right now, in terms of having a significant amount of need with our current facilities in terms of maintenance, renovation, all those things, while simultaneously trying to be proactive and plan into the future. And those are problems, as I always describe them, that are on literally the opposite end of the spectrum. And so it becomes very difficult as we think about how we're going to address that and align resources to try to address all of those different issues. I also think that we have really tried to focus on leaning on our partners around the community to better understand what's happening, better understand what data and trends look like in our city, and really trying to, again, think into the future and be proactive. And so Jade and I have had a lot of conversations with the city, the county, groups like Elevate, and there's some really interesting things that come out of that data, and interesting trends that are happening in our city. For example, I think there are some common narratives that float around our community in terms of growth and what that looks like. And what we found is that, first of all, the city has grown in population by 5% over the last 2 years. That's confirmed growth. This is, to me, one of the narratives that I think we often hear is, well, there's a lot of retirement folks that are moving into that community, into our community. And while that may be true, what the data says is that 83% of those new residents are under age 65. So the vast majority of folks coming into our community are technically under retirement age. The median age of people moving into our city over the last 4 years is 31 years old. So it really defies, I think, some of the common narrative that we often hear about how our city is growing and what that looks like. So it's a fact that the city is growing in population. Now, of course, we have not seen that present in terms of increasing enrollment, and that's a very frustrating situation, obviously, but we can't deny the fact that our city is growing. The other challenge is not only is it growing, but it's also stretching and expanding, which really presents a lot of challenges in and of itself of how do we, even if we're not seeing necessarily enrollment growth, respond to our city stretching and growing and moving around us in meeting students where it's at. And so I want to show you a particular example, as we've had conversations over the last several months of an area of our community that is concerning in terms of how it's growing. So this is a map of our entire community, and I know it's obviously a large area and can be difficult to see. We call this our heat map. And so what Jade does is, as we become aware of residential development projects that are happening in our city. We put them into this map. Now, of course, all of these purple areas that you see that are the areas of development are at different stages of development. So everything from they've filed for a permit from the city but haven't moved any dirt, to they are literally putting up houses as we speak, and everything in between there. And so you can see circled in red, these are the particular areas of our community that have housing developments happening that are far more advanced than any other area of our community. And I know I am terrible directionally, but so this street is Elkvale. This site would be Valley View, and this site would be Rapid Valley. And so you can see there are three really major growth areas that are happening in this side of the community. And again, they're far more advanced than what we see in some of these other areas. They are moving dirt, they are putting up houses every single day, and so they are rolling along very quickly. So this is a zoom in map of that area that you just saw. And when we really start to dig in, there's an area in particular that becomes very concerning in terms of growth, and that's the Shepherd Hills area, this area in green. So that extends from the west side of Elkvale all the way up to I-90, here to East North, and then down to Highway 44. So it's sort of this triangle area. Again, Valley View over here and Rapid Valley here. Currently, there are 189 students coming out of this area that are attending Valley View. Excuse me, let me go back for 1 second. Jade and I had a chance to meet with the developer of this area. This area is moving so fast that the developer says, hey, we're having trouble even lining up resources to be able to move as fast as people need us to. And so I can tell you, I drive by this area every single day. There were 2 new houses up today from the time that I went to work this morning to the time that I took my kids home prior to coming to this meeting. And so there's dirt moving everywhere. It is a major development area that is happening in the Shepherd Hills area. And again, that presents some major challenges. First of all, Valley View and Rapid Valley already have capacity issues, nearing and or over capacity in that area. The Shepherd Hills development area total housing unit estimate ranges from 2,200 on the low end to 4,500 on the high end, depending on the remaining development of that area. So we were able to get a look at and talk about the master plan with the developer. There's some areas that they're still trying to decide what the best approach is in terms of, is it going to be single family homes? Is it going to be apartment complexes? And obviously that has a major impact. So as you can see, quite the range, but even on the low end, 2,200 housing units is a huge amount of housing. Again, currently we have 189 students in that area attending Valley View. Our best estimate is that an additional 350 to 600 elementary students will reside in that area in the next 3 to 5 years. And I feel much more comfortable saying that today, even than I did 2 weeks ago, given the conversations we've had during that period of time. That does not include other major development areas near that Valley View and Rapid Valley area. So Camden Heights, Ennin, and Apple Valley, which are really these areas. This is Apple Valley and then Camden Heights here, that are also moving dirt and expanding as we speak. And those figures are not counting anything happening in those 2 areas, which obviously are also going to have a major impact on Rapid Valley and Valley View. So Obviously, this is an area that we're gonna have to keep a close eye on as we move into the master planning process, as we think about facility issues over the next several years. As that area continues to develop, excuse me. It may be an area that we have to look at boundary adjustments. Again, if we cannot address the capacity issues, that we may have to look at boundary adjustments as we move into the future, depending on how those numbers turn out over the next few years. So really, that is just an example of the type of things that as we are keeping an eye towards the future, as we are thinking about not only how we respond to a lot of our current facility issues, how we are going to respond to growth and expansion and sprawl happening in our city. So wanted to get that on the board's radar, and happy to answer any questions that any of the board members have. Vice President Clapham.
Mrs. Urban.
Thank you, Coy. I think that's really important information, and it adds urgency to an issue that we already know is an issue. So I think tonight being able to approve that facilities planning process and get them moving will be incredibly important so that we can start moving forward in a responsible way. So thank you for the information. It's astounding and a little bit worrisome.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Great points.
Ms. Stevenson.
Thanks. I also wanted to thank you for getting this out there. This is for people watching. This is something that a conversation the facilities committee has been having and the board has been having here and there. And I think it's really important to get this information out to the community because it is it's a looming issue it's one important looming issue among several that we have with our facilities. So the more information, the better. I really appreciate you sharing it tonight. And I share Ms. Urban's enthusiasm for getting a master plan and continuing the conversation about a bond.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I was just gonna say, I am appreciative. So obviously it affects our building. I think it's good for the public to know and make sure I'm accurate, both of you, that the two schools between Valley View and Rapid Valley, we have nearly 1,000 elementary students. Is that accurate?
Probably
Between
over,
two
right?
elementary schools.
No, we would be approaching 1,000. Yeah, we're about 600 at Valley and 380-ish at Rapid Valley.
Right, so that's
Yeah.
a lot in elementary. And then also, when we think about like, this obviously affects capacity, but then right now we're having the transportation study. I was wondering, does it, in the transportation study, are these seeing because just houses and driving and that could affect even that when we go to look at solutions for our transportation struggles, have they looked at this future building too when they are doing the logistical?
They certainly will. So as a matter of fact, we meet with Paul who is the CEO of the company, and then a couple of his people. They're here flying in tomorrow morning, and so we'll meet with them a little later in the morning tomorrow. And certainly a big part of the information they need in order to help guide us through the busing situation is what our expansion plans look like over the next several years. And a lot of this demographic information really transfers back and forth, certainly from one conversation to the other. And so it's really important in many, many aspects. And I think that, of course, from an operational standpoint, thinking about how we best position the district as we move into the future and we respond to those growth patterns is really, really important, especially as resources start to get squeezed and we deal with a lot of those challenges. Makes it even more important to really strategically think about how we're moving the district into the future in terms of facilities.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes,
That was
ma'am.
Very good information.
Thank you. Thanks, board.
All right, with that completed, there were no conflict of interest. So we move on to item 12, the policy procedures and exhibits, the first reading of JGA prohibition of corporal punishment. Is there any discussion? I think all board members have probably read it. Any discussion, comments, edits? No. And just for public knowledge so the policy committee looks at policies with legal counsel, edits, makes suggestions, make changes, then the whole board also views it and it has to go through a first and second reading. So it's not that we're just skipping over it, but most of the board is kind of chewed on and processed this, especially when there's only one policy at a time. So if there are no questions, then we will, and the first reading, there's no vote. So then we will move on to, there is, sorry, I apologize. See, I don't get to hold the thing very much. All right, who would like to motion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Michael moves. 1 second. It has been moved and seconded for the first reading, approval of the first reading of JGA. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And now we move on to item 13, approval of proposed agreements. Does anyone want to pull either of the proposed agreements? I think you technically do, yes.
I'd like to pull A.
Okay, so, Mrs. Stephenson would like to pull A. So with that being said,
Should we just pull B and go in order? I'll pull B.
okay, Mr. Berkson would like to pull B. So both A and B have been pulled for discussion, so we will first prior to approval, discuss item A. All right, and Ms. Stephenson is the first question. Sorry, motion and second, or motion, I will motion to pull item A.
To approve.
To approve. Yes, sorry, to approve.
I second you, but,
Mrs. Urban seconds. Then discussion.
We got there.
We got there.
I wanted to pull this one to add a little bit of explanation to the public who's reading our agendas and watching our meetings. And maybe not an explanation, but just appreciation. I think that there's, as I've said multiple times since rejoining this board in the last year, communication is such a challenge, not because of any one person and the job they have to do. It's just that there's so many different ways to reach people. And we don't really have media in the way that we used to have media. And so it means that the job of the district communicating has gotten harder and much, much more important. So we've had different ways of communicating with the public, with our school community, with our staff. It hasn't always been the most effective. And so I really appreciate that Dr. Strasser and Bobby and everybody else involved found an alternative that really looks like it's gonna be better for our district. I very much look forward to more efficient communications, making it easier for the district to get information out, making it easier for parents to read communication that comes from the various levels of education that we offer. So I'm just, a lot of gratitude, a lot of hope that this will lead to improved communication so that people know what's happening in our district.
Thank you, Mr. Berkland.
Along those same lines, since we're being grateful, I guess. I appreciate that. And I appreciate, along with those things that Ms. Stephenson put so well, I appreciate that we are making a change when we notice the problem. I think especially when it comes to stuff that's expensive like this, it's really easy to say like, we're gonna stick with this because we paid so much for it, but sometimes we just have to move forward with something new. So I really do appreciate you bringing this forward as a hopefully solution to all of those problems that we are definitely experiencing. So thank you both. Thank you all.
All right, is there any further discussion? So it has been motioned and seconded to approve proposed agreement A. Correct, all in favor?
Aye.
No, any opposed? All right, proposed agreement A with Apogee is approved, and now we need a motion and a second to approve agreement B.
Motion.
Motion, Ms. Urban.
Second.
Second, Mr. Swan. All right, discussion?
I just pulled it to keep them in order.
Okay, Michael just pulled it to keep it in order, so there is no discussion, so we will vote all in favor to approve agreement B, proposed agreements. Aye. Any opposed? It is approved. And so now we would need item 14. We would need a motion and second to approve the compost unit, or if anyone wants to pull anything, now is the time before we approve the proposed consent agenda. Does anyone need or want anything pulled for discussion?
I would like to pull E, please.
Okay, E is an echo. We're gonna pretend that Bishop Carr is here because I would know that. All right, anything besides E? N. Thank you, sir. So we have E and N. Anything else? All right. So, a motion to approve the proposed agenda without pulling letters E and N. Motion, Ms. Urban, second, Ms. Stephenson. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, excellent. All right. I need a motion and second to discuss item E.
So
I move to approve. item
Sorry,
E.
yes, move to approve item E. Ms. Stephenson?
second that.
Mr. Berkman second, so it has been motion and second to approve item E. Discussion.
I pulled this because I just wanted to draw attention again. Mr. Sappy also drew attention to this in his report, but wanted to pull attention to it so that the community knows. We've had people come and ask us what's going on with facilities. This is what's going on with facilities. We need a master plan. We need to know what we can do with the money we have now in the next 20 years and what we might need a bond for and how much that bond might be. And so this is a fantastic first step. I'm super excited about it. And I ask the community to pay attention, and there will be opportunities to to give your input. We can't make these tough decisions in a bubble. It is our school district, everybody's. And so I appreciate people paying attention right now, and I hope you continue to pay attention.
Any further discussion? All right, it has been moved, seconded, and discussed. So all in favor of approving item E, the master plan with Co-op Architect, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, it's approved. Now I need a motion and a second to approve item N as in November. Mr.
Second.
Swan motions, Ms. Urban seconds, discussion. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Swan.
I just see Mr. Gene Tyon in the audience tonight. I'd just like to recognize he and Dr. Strong's work in getting this agreement started. I know I've sat in the beginning meetings with both of them, and they both seem committed to making this work. So thank you for your time tonight, Gene. Thank you for your time, Jen.
And I was just second, I think, we talk about, and again, it's hard for us, we talk about communication and transparency. And I think when we talk about the OCR, when we talk about addressing behavior like this agreement is an example of how we're trying to do differently and better. And so I think it's important for the community to see that, and that providing other opportunities for cultural experiences, for staff education, so that we are listening, and that this is just, it's a small step, but every small step matters. And that I think this is a big step in that direction. And so I'm appreciative of the work being done to make that happen. Yes, you may. Please.
Jade and I had a bet who's gonna be on TV tonight.
You have the floor, Mr.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I would just like to comment, thank you, Mr. Swan, for your comment on the work that Mr. Tyon and his team and my team and I have worked very hard on. We actually started the work on this agreement last fall, before we ever even received the resolution. Mr. Tyon and Mr. Taken Alive and I resurrected this MOU and really delved into it under the initial direction of Mr. Swan. So we have been working on this MOU for over a year. several months prior to ever receiving the OCR resolution or the requirement, knowing and understanding that this partnership with OLO in our schools was not only important, but essential to the future success, especially at the high school level. We've poured a tremendous amount of resources into the high schools to continue to support graduation and to support our high school students to get them across that stage to build success and capacity, however that looks for them in various ways. So we're excited to enter into this partnership. It looks different than it did last year, but that's okay. We're excited to see how this goes and grows, and I'm sure we'll continue to morph, but we are really looking forward to an excellent partnership and a strong partnership in many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Strong. I appreciate that. Yes, you may. Please step to the microphone if you don't mind.
Thank you. The curriculum we're providing for we're starting with the freshman class. And it's a lot of identity development, a lot of enhancing traditional values, which is not taught in any school around South Dakota. So we have with our tutoring program, which is we believe is going to be very effective for I believe it's about 300 freshmen, native freshmen. So we'd like to put a halt to that 75% dropout rate in the last 20 some years, and we're going to do our best to make sure that percentage is no longer there. And along with our master's level tutors, and we got one PhD tutor, we have several traditional healers and cultural advisors to reconnect us to who we are. That's our focus here, which has been lost due to acculturation. So we're really moving forward in collaboration, and so far we're doing it's really awesome to see the kids understand who they are. And next week, October 16th, we're having it's called a wiping a tear ceremony, addressing grief, especially what happened recently, and to the purpose of it and the intention of it will be delivered in the next 2 weeks to the school, the teachers, the administration, and hopefully, if you guys are available, you can attend too. We're doing this at the Central School, so I want to have Caitlin say a few words too.
Good evening. Thank you all for allowing us to be on the agenda and for giving us an opportunity to speak. I was not prepared to say anything, but just to kind of reiterate my Lexi or my uncle Gene's words is it's amazing to have the ability to put our foot in the door in Central High School. I'm a cobbler as well. What's a cobbler? Always a cobbler. So it was exciting to be able to come back to Central and offer an opportunity for the students that I myself didn't really have being there. And from personal experience, I think I can understand a lot of what these students are going through, having experienced it myself. But it also gives that extra bit of push to really lean into this opportunity that we have, that we've been given to showcase that our cultural healing is powerful. I'll step it back a little mini lesson because I think history is really valuable to be reminded of. Otherwise, we tend to repeat these mistakes that have continued to happen over and over again. And colonization was the separation of spirit of our culture. It was the first part that was severed. And we're dealing with that generation upon generation, even to today. And so a lot of what our healing looks at is healing our spirit, healing that piece of us that got disconnected, that got severed, that was intentional, but now we can be intentional in that healing process as well. So I just want to thank you guys again for giving us the opportunity to provide those cultural healings and those cultural teachings that a lot of Native kids in this community aren't aware of, or they feel it, but they don't have the words to describe it. And a lot of our kids, a lot of our youth are really smart. They're really gifted, but they just get all of these external pressures that really cause them to have a hard time in the academic world. And so we're just trying to give space for them, whether it be academic or if they need external resource help, we're also available for that as well. We can connect them with what they need for their families outside of the schools. So thank you again, just for letting us have this opportunity to speak, for letting us have this opportunity to help our students. And really, it's not just our Native students that are going to benefit from this. It's going to be everybody at Central. So thank you.
Thank you all very much. And
Like to-
I'm sorry.
I'd like to thank Jennifer and Ira and Walt for really helping us. And I'm not a cobbler, but I'm a Pioneer Thorpe, so we're still strong.
Okay, right. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. And please do keep us posted on dates and events, and particularly that event on the 16th. I'm sure as many of us can be there, would like to be there. So thank you very much.
I just was gonna ask for the dates of that wiping of the tears ceremony, date and time. 16th at what time? At CHS?
Time to be determined. Okay.
Okay.
October 16th, time to be determined at Central High School.
And I also just wanted to say thank you, because I think I'm excited to see the difference that it makes, and I wish that we could, you know, expand it into other schools, and hopefully that is the plan at some point.
Also, I've got to mention, principal, relatives, the adults in the house, every month we're having a meeting to update each other and listen to the concerns, what's going on at home and what's going on in school.
Great, thank you.
To it and Matt too.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. It's been a great discussion. So it's been motion and seconded to approve the letter N as in November, the MOU with OLO. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. All right. Excellent. Now we are moving on to item number 15, items for board information, committee reports. All right, Mr. Swan was first to that race, so we will have Mr. Swan report first.
Thank you. Thank you for the, September 18th was the first PAC meeting of the year. There were about 20 attendees for that. It was held at North Middle School. I just wanted to, for the record, I guess, just to name off a few people. Before she leaves, Marcel Barrientos is also on the PAC committee. She, Maricel, is that it? Is that how you say it? She's represents the Alternative Academy for the PAC. So thank you and congratulations. Very tight race, I think. Yeah. Thank you. The congratulations, I think, need to go out to Tyresha Grayhorse, who is the president, the new president this year for the PAC. The vice president is Natiki Young. Tink. Secretary is Jennifer Reed. Geneva Minnick, teacher from Knollwood, is the teacher representative. As well, we have two other representatives from Central and from Stevens. Araya LeBeau is from Central. Ava Morgan is from Stevens. The PAC committee has set up 3 subcommittees this year. One is for the Wachipi, one is for the feathering, and one is for the OCR. They have approved, they do have some good news this year so far that for their senior honoring ceremony, 135 students have been, are set for graduation, and that will set a new world record here in Rapid City, I guess. So, and it is scheduled for Stevens High School this year on May 21st. They also approved, they deferred to the committee about the eligibility for the subcommittee, and Jen Strong gave an OCR update, and I do have that number for the Native students in the district as well. So we are growing a growing population here in Rapid City, And it is going to continue. I think the PAC is going to play a very important role in the near future. So I think that's going to be, I think we're at about a third of the district now. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks for that report, Mr. Brooklyn.
Thank you. The only thing I would add to your report is next meeting is October 16th at Horace Mann. I don't know if I said that. Yes. And then moving on to my other committee, sorry. The Performing Arts Center did not have a meeting this month. We were supposed to meet, but then it got canceled. But so all I have to report is encourage you to continue looking at their events as always. Policy Committee met, you kind of already talked about that. So I'll skip over that one. And then the Instructional Council. So shout out to Joey and Cody for typing up wonderful minutes that I can just kind of copy off of here. It was Director Jen Roberts' first Instructional Council meeting. So she welcomed everyone and gave us a little bit about what Instructional Council is. So for everyone, it is reviewing information regarding curriculum, proposals and adoptions, any assessments, graduation requirements, high school course registration, guidebooks. We had some information about supplemental materials at this last meeting, really just anything that has to do with instruction as its Instructional Council. So at this meeting, we got a secondary social studies adoption update. So all of the different subjects are kind of meeting separately, and they each have their own rules for selecting the curriculum. And those vary what those rules are. But Nicole Keegan and Dylan Wasserberger have those. You can for sure ask them. The big thing is we are just kind of starting a pilot process for them right now. All of the subjects except for psychology are being piloted right now. Psychology, there were some vendor issues as well as a teacher out on maternity leave that are pushing that back until January 2025. But it sounds like the pilot is going well. They were just barely getting into it, but we will get more feedback on that later on. And then I forget exactly when. I don't think it's until next fall. I should look that up, but it's going to be a while before it'll get to our level. And then the other ones that were presented on were all supplemental materials that are all at no cost. Satira Thompson gave a presentation on elementary human growth and development for 4th and 5th graders. She spoke a little bit about why do we start in 4th grade? Like you might remember, I learned this in 6th grade or 5th grade. As I don't quite know why, but kids are hitting puberty earlier. So many students are experiencing puberty all the way back in 4th grade. So it's getting younger there. And so that is part of why it is. The instructional material with that is called Meet the New You for 4th grade and Always Changing and Growing Up for 5th grade. If you want to check those out. And then Bobby Joe Donovan presented on relationship smarts, which had been used previously at Rapid City Alternative Academy at some times, and is being piloted right now in the Intro to Human Services and Education classes at CHS and SHS. And then hopefully moving into the freshman seminar classes. What that is a lot of instruction that comes from the Youth and Family Services on just all the things that make a great student. It's kind of similar, from my understanding of it, to the Discovery program that we have over at RCAA, just pared down a little bit more into 13 lessons that are all provided by YFS. And then the last one, I believe, was for some elementary STEM stuff, the FAA, which is the plain stuff, Federal Aviation Administration, also has graciously offered to come in and work with some of our elementary schools on it's the STEM AVSED program, and I forgot what that stands for, but basically about aerospace and associated careers as part of career exploration. And we will be meeting again on that on October 22nd, and that is Instructional Council, and Walt already did Title 6 PAC, so I am done. Thank you.
Do we have any other committee reports? Okay, Ms. Stevenson?
Yeah, I just want to note that the Community Outreach Committee did meet and continue to work on initiatives that we spoke about at prior meetings, including coming up with a prototype of a newsletter from the board, getting listening sessions scheduled with students if we can, and then a couple others during the year, and getting some service projects and getting some staff recognition projects underway. So we will keep you posted. Members of the board, look for emails about different initiatives so you can weigh in make sure we don't go way off track, but we continue to move onward.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Stephenson. If there are no other committee reports, anyone for other? Ms. Stephenson?
I have kind of a disjointed other, because for those of you who don't know, I spend Tuesdays in a car. I see kids and then I do a lot of driving. And today I did a lot of thinking. On Sunday, I went to the Honor the Children Memorial Walk, which remembers the more than 50 children who died at the Rapid City Indian Boarding School less than 100 years ago. And, you know, when we're talking about OLO coming in and dealing with the mental health and the trauma, it's all very heavy. And I really wanted to recognize that there are so many people in this town trying to do the good work of healing and moving forward, but it also, especially with the loss that our district suffered last night and that we suffered a couple weeks ago, it made me really reflective about the effect that all this has on our staff and on our students, and how hard the job has become educating our kids because of everything that they bring in. And I don't have answers. I just wanted our students and staff to know that my heart is with them. It's the job is always hard, and this year it feels like it's been harder because of some of the loss of life that we've had in our district. So I'm appreciative. I'm so appreciative of the MOU with OLO. I'm so appreciative with all of the counseling programs that we have, and anybody who takes initiative to address the mental health issues of our students. Everybody recognizes the need, and yet it's hard to address the need when you have limited funding. And so the people who wrote grants to try and get more counselors hired, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, and keep up the work. And we will all get through this together.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stephenson. I absolutely agree with you, and I think that kind of going back to even our invocation and just remembering to give each other grace when we walk in the school door, that what every staff, every administrator, what they're dealing with, like we know about those losses. We don't know about the 20 other things that they might be carrying, and that understanding, you know, when your child's teacher might be having a rough day, we have no idea. And that often it is a somewhat thankless job, many of these jobs. And every person, every para, every janitor, it's, you know, what buildings are communities, and it's a loss of person in your community. And so that we're all feeling that. And I absolutely agree with you that it's hard and it's heavy, particularly so quickly into the school year. On a positive, I wanted to say a shout out and a thank you to the Black Hills Period Project. Actually, as we were talking about human development, there is a group of ladies I have discovered. I'm not completely sure how they got together or but they make lovely little packages for every nurse in the district, every school building in the district, for our female students. And so that they have supplies that they need that sometimes either just don't have on hand, can't afford, but they hand sew little packets. It's amazing. And they reach out and have people deliver, and it's all completely volunteer and donation. And it was just wonderful. I got to go to 3 schools and deliver, and the nurses were so excited to have them. It's something that's not necessarily in their supply and their budget to have. And so I'm just really appreciative and a reminder in a positive way that there are people in all corners of this community doing all kinds of things that we don't even know about. And I just sort of stumbled upon this, and that, you know, I'm so appreciative of our community supporting our kids and our schools. And like I said, in all kinds of different ways every day, you know, that we are truly grateful. If there is no more other, we would move into, we need a motion a second to move into executive session for SDCL 125.21, discussing qualifications, competence, performance of a public officer or employee. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Berkman moves. Mr. Swan second. Has been motioned and seconded for us to move into executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? No, there will be no voting or formal business after this point. Have a good night.